सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Leaving behind his beloved 4-year-old son and his students at the Falah-e-Aam primary school in Doda, Tariq Ahmed Wani began his journey to the graveyard on the hill. Following his training at a jihad training camp in 1993, Wani returned across the line of control to take charge of building a jihadist presence in Rajouri, Poonch and Doda, the Pir Panjal range along Kashmir's southern fringe. In the forests above the remote town of Gulabgarh, Wani began hosting the Lashkar-e-Taiba cadre sent in to wage a ruthless campaign of ethnic cleansing. Then, after a firefight with Indian troops on the 20th of April 1996, Wani's body was carried in procession to the Mazar-e-Shuhada, the so-called martyrs' graveyard, in Farrukhabad on the outskirts of his hometown, according to police records. The lethal ambush which claimed the lives of 5 Indian soldiers on the lonely road to Bhimbar Gully in Poonch district last week took place on the anniversary of Wani's death. Encrypted social media platforms linked to the Lashkar recorded. 4 years ago, the killing of 40 Indian paramilitary police personnel in a suicide attack at Pulwama had pushed New Delhi to unleash missiles across the line of control, leading India and Pakistan to the edge of war. Terrorist groups Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed have since been reined in by Pakistan, and Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto's visit is expected in New Delhi next month. But attacks across the line of control have continued. Ever since the execution-style killing of 5 sleeping soldiers near Chamrer in 2021 and 4 more in subsequent combing operations, there have been more than a dozen terrorist attacks in Rajouri and Poonch. These have included a suicide attack on an army outpost, multiple grenade attacks and bombings, as well as the massacre of Hindu villagers in Rajouri. Ease of terrorist operation across the line of control has been enhanced by the thinning out of troops necessitated by the crisis in Ladakh. The violence shows just how unstable the peace on the line of control in fact is. Facing a historically unprecedented economic meltdown and savage jihadist violence by the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, Islamabad knows it can't risk a war. The country's military, though, has been telling India in covert talks that it is owed political concessions on Kashmir in return for ensuring low levels of violence in the region after 2019. For its part, India is convinced that time is on its side in Kashmir and sees no reason to make political concessions. Learning from the Balakot crisis that the abyss can be closer than we imagine, both sides have maintained a kind of grim peace. The deadlock, though, is much more unstable than it seems. Late in the summer of 2005, a small group of friends and family gathered at Abdus Salam's home in the South Kashmir village of Kadir to witness the marriage of his stepdaughter Shabira Kuche. The colour and local custom which marks rural Kashmiri weddings was conspicuous by its absence, a guest present there told ThePrint. Following a brief religious ceremony conducted by the village cleric, a few dates were handed out to the guests. Then the groom disappeared into the darkness without his new bride. The husband who disappeared, Sajid Saifullah Jatt, also known as Sajid Langra or Sajid the Lame, today commands Lashkar-e-Taiba operations, including the Bhimbar Gully attack, from a dairy farm near Lahore, Indian intelligence officials say. Together with Muhammad Qasim, a one-time resident of the village of Angrela near Mahor, Sajid is reputed to have built networks around small-time criminals and cross-border narcotics traffickers. Instead of sustaining operational units deep inside Kashmir, these operations rely on highly trained Lashkar commandos to stage attacks relatively close to the line of control. Following each recent operations, the attackers have rapidly exfiltrated back into Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Lashkar commanders have long experience of this kind of low-grade warfare. Faced with international pressure and wary of ending up at war with India, General Parvez Musharraf, Pakistan's former military ruler, had ordered a ceasefire along the line of control and curtailed the activities of jihadist groups in Pakistan. The militant organization Hizbul Mujahideen, divided over secret peace talks with Indian intelligence, also fractured. The jihadist movement almost collapsed. Through ethnic Kashmiri jihadist Muhammad Abbas Sheikh, the 1975 born son of a small peasant who worked as a roadside tailor in southern Kashmir's Kaimo, the Lashkar Sajid focused on setting up small local networks of support and recruitment. Early in 2007, Shabira and Sajid were forced to flee to Pakistan ahead of a police raid, leaving behind their 2-week-old child. Now a teenager, their son Umar Raja Afaq still lives in the family home in Kulgam. The network Sajid had set up also thrived. From 2014, these networks were to become critical to Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence Directorate as it began crafting a response to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's decision to retaliate against terrorism by escalating shelling across the line of control. In 2015, the Jaish-e-Mohammed Fidain struck in Gurdaspur, following up with attacks on an Indian Air Force base in Pathankot and an Army Brigade headquarters in Uri. Furious, India hit back with cross-line of control strikes. But the ISI chose to raise the stakes. Even though the 2016 strikes ended jihadist attacks outside Jammu and Kashmir, Jaish-e-Mohammed Fidain units struck at military bases in Nagrota and Sunjwa near Jammu, as well as a CRPF training center in Lethpura. Former Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat began to publicly advocate for more strikes across the line of control in September 2018, 5 months before Pulwama. Few authoritative accounts have emerged out of Pakistan's decision to hit back across the line of control following India's missile strike on Balakot, a move which led both countries to fear imminent escalation into nuclear war. Lieutenant General Tariq Khan, former commander of Pakistan's Mangla-based One Strike Corps, provides some fascinating insights though in private messages he sent during the crisis. Islamabad, he argued in those messages, should, I quote, push the envelope of hostilities so that nuclear war is a likely outcome. Even though the prospect of the conflict actually escalating to the nuclear level was low, General Tariq noted, the very risk of escalation would serve as a deterrent to India. Nuclear deterrence, he pointed out, was, and I quote again, a mindset and never a tangible posture. It is an outcome of a possibility, General Tariq said. Former Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa saw India and Pakistan both slowly pulling back from the edge after Balakot, with secret diplomacy eventually leading the two countries to a ceasefire along the line of control again in 2021. This ceasefire though has become caught up in Pakistani politics, and former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been claiming Bajwa forced him to keep the peace with India against his will. Fearing Khan's growing popularity, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has been reluctant to normalize ties with India without securing some concessions first on Kashmir. The lessons India drew from the Balakot attack were also mixed, as scholar Rohan Mukherjee has noted. Even though the country demonstrated its resolve to retaliate against terrorism, Mukherjee observes that Indian military power was, and I quote, unable to dominate the escalation ladder. Though Pakistan was shaken, India also came away with a bloodied nose. Prime Minister Modi has since shown he is acutely aware of the crippling costs an India-Pakistan conflict would impose on both sides. Leave aside cross-line of control strikes. He has even avoided harsh polemic in the wake of terrorist attacks since 2021. As elections near though, this restraint could become much harder to sustain, especially if a terrorist attack ends up claiming a large number of lives. As elections near in both countries, the Bhimber Gully ambush shows that the risk of war by missteps and miscalculations will steadily escalate. I'm Praveen Swami and I'm National Security Editor of ThePrint. Thank you for watching Security Code.